You owe someone money, almost everyone does. A mortgage, a card, a loan, a friend you'll pay back next week. It feels modern, a thing of banks, screens, and contracts. It isn't. Debt is older than coins, older than cash, older than money itself. It may be the oldest financial idea humans ever had, and the story you were taught about where it came from is wrong. Here's the version you know, the one from the textbooks. Long ago, before money, people simply traded. This is called barter. You have a cow, I have grain, we swap, simple. But barter has a problem. What if I want your cow, but you don't want my grain? I'd have to find someone with what you want, who wants what I have. It's slow, it's clumsy, it barely works. So, the story goes, humans invented money to fix it. One thing everyone accepts, coins, cash. And once money existed, you could lend it. Debt was born. Barter, then money, then debt, a neat little ladder. Adam Smith told this story in 1776. Economists have repeated it ever since. There's just one problem with it. It never happened. In 2011, an anthropologist named David Graeber asked a simple question. Where are all these barter economies the textbooks describe? Anthropologists had been looking for over a century. Every continent, every kind of society. And they never found one. No tribe, no village, no people anywhere ran on pure barter. The barter economy, the base of the whole story, is a myth. So what did people actually do before money? They used debt. Picture a small village. Everyone knows everyone. You need a goat. Your neighbor has a spare. He gives it to you. No coins change hands. You simply owe him. Maybe you help with his harvest. Maybe you give him grain later. Maybe the debt just sits there for years. The whole village runs on a web of IOU. Favors, promises, memory. That is debt, and it came first. Not barter, not coins, trust written in people's heads. And when humans finally did write it down, look at what they chose to record. The oldest writing we have comes from Mesopotamia, around 3000 BC, in what is now Iraq. Clay tablets pressed with a sharpened reed. And the very first thing humans wrote was not poetry, not prayers, not the names of kings. It was accounting. Who owed what, to whom, and when it was due. Writing itself may have been invented to keep track of debt. In the great temples of Sumer, scribes kept the books. So many measures of barley owed by this farmer. So much silver owed to that estate. Money existed here, but mostly as a number. A unit to measure debt, not coins in a hand. You could owe silver you had never even seen. The debt was real. The metal was optional. But a society built on debt has a dark edge. Because debts grow. A farmer borrows grain to plant his field. The harvest fails, he borrows again. Interest is added, the debt swells. In Mesopotamia, interest on grain could run at a third. Soon he owes more than he can ever repay. So what does he hand over? First his fields, then his animals, then his family. His wife, his children, sent to work in the creditor's house. Debt bondage, slavery by another name. Not because they lost a war, not because they were captured, but because of a number on a clay tablet. And when too many families fell this way, the whole society began to crack. Fields lay empty, the debtors fled or revolted. A kingdom of slaves is a fragile kingdom. So the kings did something we would find unthinkable. They canceled the debts. All of them at once. A royal decree wiped the tablets clean. Debts forgiven, bonded families sent home. Land returned to whoever first owned it. The Mesopotamians called it a clean slate. The earliest ones date back over 4,000 years. King Hammurabi of Babylon declared them. So did rulers before him and after. A new king would often begin his reign this way, erasing debt to win the loyalty of his people. This idea echoed down the centuries. In ancient Israel, it became law. Every 50 years, a jubilee. Debts erased, slaves freed, land returned. The word still survives. We just forgot what it meant. To the ancients, debt was not sacred. It was a tool, and sometimes you reset the tool. So where did coins come from? Much later, around 600 BC. In Lydia, in what is now Turkey. stamped lumps of metal long after debt began, and coins were useful for one thing in particular: paying soldiers, strangers who might not be back tomorrow. An army doesn't run on trust, it runs on cash. And as empires and armies spread, coins spread with them, and slowly we forgot. We forgot that money was always just a measure of debt. We started to believe the coin itself was the real thing. Which brings us back to you. The loan that can feel like a cage. It is not new, it is not modern. You are part of something 5,000 years old. A web of promises, the way humans have always lived. No one is saying debt is evil. It built farms, cities, the modern world. But it was never meant to be a life sentence. The ancients knew that. They built in an escape because they understood what a debt really is. Just a promise between people. And a promise, when it has to be, can be forgiven. He wiped the debts away. He freed the people enslaved by them. And he banned forever. Borrowing with your own body as the collateral. The Greeks called it the shaking off of burdens. It may have saved the city. And Athens was not alone. Long before the kings of Mesopotamia had found the very same solution. Every so often, a king would simply cancel the debts. All of them at once. A royal decree wiped the tablets clean. Debts forgiven, bonded families sent home. Land returned to whoever first held it. They called it a clean slate. The earliest we know of is over 4,000 years old. King Hammurabi of Babylon proclaimed them. And in ancient Israel, it became sacred law. Every 50 years, a jubilee. Debts erased, slaves freed, land returned. The word still survives in our language. We have just forgotten what it once meant. Because somewhere along the way, debt changed. It stopped being a simple promise and became something heavier, a sin. In German, a single word, Schuld, means both debt and guilt. We came to believe that you must always pay, that a debt unpaid is a kind of crime. The ancients didn't see it that way. To them, a debt was a tool, and a tool can be reset. So where did coins finally come from? Much later, around 600 BC in a kingdom called Lydia. Stamped lumps of metal made to pay soldiers, strangers with swords who might not be there tomorrow. An army doesn't run on trust, it runs on cash. And as coins and empires spread across the world, we slowly forgot the older truth. That money was always just a measure of debt. Which brings us back to you. The loan that can feel like a cage. It is not new and it is not modern. You are part of something 5,000 years old. No one is saying debt is evil. It built farms, cities, the modern world. But it was never meant to be a life sentence. The ancients knew that. They built in an escape because they understood what a debt really is. Just a promise between people, and a promise, when it has to be, can be forgiven.